India for the world, the India story.
Welcome to our final edition of WION World of Cricket, where we are covering the ICC ODI World Cup, the 2023 edition. Well, let's see what has happened there. Australia have broken the hearts of 1.4 billion Indians on their way to record extending 6th ODI World Cup title. And how did they do that? Well, they defeated India by 6 wickets and with 42 balls remaining. Welcome to the show. I'm Isha Hanspal. Let's see what happened there at the Narendra Modi Stadium today in Ahmedabad. Travis Head scored a memorable century to take the Aussies to a comfortable win. It was a 6-wicket win, like we told you, over host India at that biggest stadium, a cricket stadium that we have witnessed, the Narendra Modi Stadium in Ahmedabad. The loss means that India's wait for an ICC trophy since 2013 continues. Australia skipper Pat Cummins won the toss and elected to field first on a slow pitch. Rohit Sharma once again gave India a brisk start, but Shubman Gill fell early to Mitchell Starc. Virat Kohli came out with intent and smoked Starc for 3 back-to-back boundaries. Sharma and Kohli shared a stand of 46 runs before Australia dealt a double blow to the men in blue. Sharma fell for 47 in the 10th over and 3 balls. Later, Shreyas Iyer was dismissed for 4. India were on the back foot with 82 for 3 in 11 overs. Kohli and KL Rahul started to rebuild the innings with a stand of 67 runs, but Kohli departed soon after completing his half-century. Rahul too completed his 50 but got out on 66, leaving India reeling on 203 for 6 in the 42nd over. The men in blue could only manage to hit 2 boundaries in between the 10th and the 40th over. 6 Indian batters could not get into double figures as India were bowled out for the first time in this edition for 240 runs. That is in this edition of the World Cup, the 2023 edition. Let's see what Australia did. Well, the Aussies came out all guns blazing and scored 15 runs in the first over. But Mohammad Shami dismissed David Warner in the very next over. Jasprit Bumrah then got Mitchell Marsh and Steven Smith out in his consecutive overs. Travis Head and Marnus Labuschagne stabilized the ship and slowly took the match away from India. Head completed his half-century in 58 balls with 111 runs on the board in the 22nd over. The southpaw switched gears and raced away to his century in 95 balls. Head, who was the player of the match in the semi-finals, scored 137 runs off 120 balls today before being dismissed by Mohammad Siraj. Labuschagne, who played the perfect second fiddle, remained unbeaten on 58 and took Australia home in the 43rd over. Let me now go over to Mr. Dav Watmore, the 1996 World Cup winning coach. What a befitting day, Dav, to have you here with us in the studios. It's the final one, the post-match analysis of that all-important big finale. Would you call it an upset?
Well, it's certainly an upset for 1.5 billion people in this country and many more around the world too. But look, I'm pretty sure I'm safe in saying that, you know, we're all surprised Australia actually beat India tonight. It was a surprise for me.
It was rather ominous, wouldn't you say? Pat Cummins somewhat sounded very confident going into this matchup when he spoke at that press conference that we would like to enjoy the silence of the Indian spectators, and sure he did that.
Well, that's right. I mean, if you're going to win, you're going to do well, and the crowd will obviously be quiet. That was more of I think a wish than anything else, but you know, they had the ability. But certainly got the rub of the green. Today it was a very good toss to win, and he called correctly and decided correctly too.
Do you think that was the most crucial decision taken in the match today, calling the toss correctly?
Yeah, not only that, deciding to bowl first was very, very shrewd, very smart. Yeah.
What do you think happened there, Dav? We can attribute this loss of India's to various factors, but what were the main things that stuck out for you?
Well, You know, my observation was that nearly every game India played in this series, apart from that pitch in Lucknow, when they were bowled out 230 or 239, and they won the match convincingly too against England. You know, every other surface they played on, they absolutely eclipsed the opposition. On good surfaces, they're good batsmen, and their bowling attack is really good. And I was really surprised to see this dry pitch that was very difficult to bat on early on, in the first half rather. And it was a game of two halves, and once that dew got a little bit, once the dew came in, it became a lot easier to bat. But that first 10 overs was, like Australia lost 3 wickets for 60 runs. So, okay, they got 60, but they also lost 3 wickets and didn't lose another one until just before the end of the game. So that shows you how much it eased up during the course of the night.
Dab, would you also say that one of the other contributing factors was probably India underestimating their own ability, their own strengths, and getting played into the hands of the Aussies and playing as per their weaknesses, as you pointed out early? Do you think that was a major factor, as we saw in the case of Shami coming in to bowl first up instead of Siraj?
Well, that's right. I'm turning my head around and thinking, and why would they do that? Well, they must have seen what I saw when Australia played in the semi-final against South Africa, when they really struggled to get over the line facing spin bowling. Maharaj, Shamsi, Markram. And I'm sure and plus let's not forget the very first game India played against Australia in Chennai, spin. So I'm pretty sure that the Indians would have been looking forward to, having their way against the opposition with spin.
With spin, with the famed attack.
But it just didn't work out because they lost the toss. Now, I'm also I feel confident that normally an Australian team wins the toss and bats first and then protects the total. And maybe they thought they would do similarly, but it didn't happen. It just didn't happen. So it became really, difficult. They almost beat themselves. And then I was also surprised to see the opening attack changed. Shami, who was doing so well, coming at first change, taking the new ball with Bumrah. Okay, you got a wicket, but he was expensive. And that was in stark contrast to what he's been doing in the previous 7 matches.
Okay, what's really shocking there, Dav, is sure India would have wanted to capitalize on their spin perhaps, and as Rohit also suggested during the pitch report, that he would have batted first.
Did he?
Yes, he did, had he got the chance to win the toss and have a choice. But having said that, would you say that the Australian spinners had it slightly easier in the first innings? By that, what I mean is that the dew did come into play towards the second half of play? Yeah,
well, if he really did want to bat first, well, he's got that information wrong, clearly, on the day. So, but the Australian spinners are not as good as the Indian spinners. Clearly, they're not as good. I know Zampa's figuring right up there, and he's a good player, good bowler, and he did much better today. Took a wicket, but Maxwell and Head seriously are improving. They're okay, but nothing like the Indian spinners. So I'm a little, it was difficult to bat on, and because the Australian spinners aren't as good as the Indian ones, but they still look good. Why is that? Because it was difficult to play shots. It's the surface you play on.
Till the very last game, I think there has been a bit of a fallout, so to say, while assessing the pitch and while trying to assess the toss decision. Dav, on that note, I'll have to go across to WION Sports editor Digvijay Singhdeo, who's very patiently waiting amid a sea of blue, disappointed spectators, I'm assuming, Digvijay. Do tell me what you see around you, what you experience around you after that rather shocking loss that Team India faced right now.
I wouldn't call it a shocking loss. I was noticing the score at 144 for threes when the first brave Indian fans started to get up and then exit towards the stadium. And by the time I came out, with Australia still about 30 to get, it was a procession. It actually took a long time sort of coming out. Obviously very, very disappointed. Most of them came thinking India are going to win and they're going to have a great celebration. But I was just listening to Dav and you, and I went out again to that same place where I sat. Remember that Pakistan game I always say? And at that point of time, India had got 3 wickets, and that stadium was buzzing at the moment. And then that first drinks break happened. And after that, suddenly, it became easy to bat. I think Siraj came in and sort of bowled once Jadeja went off, and just came on so beautifully for Head. I got a feeling that it was Head who was going to sort of take the game away for India. They had to get him out. And at that shot, I think we need to sort of, this is when Kuldeep came on, Head was brave and he took him on and he slog swept him. A lot of people asking on the way out that if he could slog sweep and try and break the shackles, why could India not do it? You know, they were sort of clearly fighting. We spoke about that. It was a difficult pitch to bat on. But Dav, did you think India sort of should have counterattacked at a certain stage?
You mean while batting?
I guess there is a bit of a technical glitch, Digvijay. We will, if you can hear me, we will come back to you in just a bit when we are able to establish a better connection with you. But for now, let's go across to Rachel Charles of WION, who is currently at the Australian High Commission, and try to understand from him what the mood there is. Rachel, hi there. I hope you can hear me well. Do describe to me what you see around you. Do describe to me the mood among the Australian diaspora that you're with right now.
Yeah. Well, Isha, the mood is only ecstatic, and I can't say the same for everyone because there are a few Indian fans here as well. But more than anything, at this screening, the camaraderie has been really nice to see, and that is something I think that goes on off the field as well.
We've had a fabulous day here today. Our friends, our colleagues, everyone was in there cheering for our teams, but at the end of the day, we're all happy to see whichever team won.
Yeah. Anything, and the cup is yours now.
Oh, it's a little bit unexpected, if I must say. I think we came into this game, and Charlie and I have been talking a lot in the lead-up, but I didn't anticipate for it to be this easy for Australia to win. I feel like it was such a dominant display. I got to say it was just wonderful to watch for me.
The other thing, Isha, that's really nice to know here is that the Australians who are in Delhi watching the game here have had it quite easy because they're watching it on India time. Whereas as they tell me that it's almost, 3 a.m. in Australia?
Yeah, 3 a.m., but that doesn't stop us because when we're watching sport, we will get up at whatever hour to watch. It doesn't matter. We face this with European football. We face it when we play the Ashes. Every time there's sport on, we'll be getting up and watching it. No, we don't have to worry about that.
But I have to also include some of the Indian fans here who have something that they'd like to give back. There's been a lot of banter through this screening.
Yeah, the Indian team played really well for the 10 games. You know, the final, I don't know what happened. They just let it go, what happened. But nevertheless, 2027 Johannesburg, India versus Australia, will bring it back.
Yeah. Well, the hope is always alive, and that's I think what it all rests on. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much, Rachel. What I also wanted to understand from your friends that you have around you, were they really expecting Australia to win today before the match began, going into this fixture? Did they really expect Australia to lift the trophy this time around? Given how light India were.
Yeah. So did this come as a bit of a surprise to you, or were you expecting this all throughout?
Well, I have to say you can never write off the Australian team. They are perhaps not been as consistent as the Indian team, which has won every game in the lead-up, went in very confident with an outstanding team, and off the back of Kohli's remarkable achievement and also Sharma's run rate, extraordinary. And just what an excellent team. So a very formidable opponent, but that is when the Australian grit and the determination rises. And we always thought you can't write us off. But we did not anticipate this event perhaps tonight, but what a wonderful outcome. And I actually love the fact that it is Australia and India together on the eve of our leaders, at deputy level meeting tomorrow. Our foreign minister is coming in tomorrow. So the stage is set for an excellent engagement amongst respected friends and on-the-field rivals.
Definitely, and I think the fact that you're in Indian attire says a lot as well.
Exactly. India is my alternate team, without any doubt.
There you go, Isha.
As long as Australia lifts the trophy. Thank you so much, Rachel, for patiently waiting for us and joining us on the broadcast. All right, Dav, perhaps even the Australian diaspora, the Australian fans were a little taken aback, a little surprised rather, because this time India went in very strong into this fixture.
I agree. I mean, and most of us would say the same thing, that the team was India's. It was the game India had to lose, not to win. So sadly it didn't work out, and a lot of people, I'm sure, would have been a little surprised to see Australia actually win the game today. But there were reasons. They're a good team, there's no question about that. They've had the experience in these big matches, particularly against all odds in terms of the support. So it was not easy to keep your focus and keep your mind and just wipe away the distractions and the noise and focus on your job, and they did that pretty well.
Just to hair split that innings a little bit more, because we've done that through the course of the last month and a half, just to draw a comparison between the two innings first up, well, India had to face 41 dot balls in the first 10 overs. Australia, on the other hand, survived that and then turned a corner there. In the next 12 overs, there had only been 34 dot balls. What do you think happened there?
Well, it was sort of a turning point, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It became a little bit easier. It's not, the first 10 overs was more about the boundaries, and then, a lot of dot balls. If you're not scoring boundaries, it was difficult to construct ones and twos. But after that power play 10 overs, it just seemed to ease up a little bit, with every time the ball hit to the outfield, it came back a little bit moist, and then eventually it was just very difficult to get the ball past the bat. There was no deviation, nothing swinging in the air either, despite Mohammad Shami's seam up as he bowled, as he always does, beautifully, hits and basically goes straight. But the first 10 overs it was doing all sorts of things, so it did change.
So the turning point was more with respect to the conditions around the two teams instead of how the innings panned out, because Australia did look dominant by just a sliver right from the very beginning. There were 80 odd runs scored in those first 10 overs that they played.
India,
so even Australia, the first 10 overs,
60,
not bad at all.
60 for 3.
Yeah. So they did not look like they were lagging behind, so to speak.
No, well, 240, I guess, Isha, is never really going to challenge unless the difficulty continued along the way to maintain that run rate. But it was, once it became a little bit easier, wickets were really hard to come by. And if you're not taking wickets, you're going to be knocked around the park a bit.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. So they were never in any doubt about run rates. It's just a matter of not losing wickets. If you don't lose wickets, you are always going to win the game.
So to summarize, would you say it was a combination of Team India playing into the hands of the Aussies, being a little fearful, not relying on their strengths as much as they should have, and perhaps the conditions not assessing them too well? Would you say it was a combination of both, or it was one more than the other?
Well, to be brutally honest, yes. I felt that it was really foreign conditions
Yep.
for a World Cup final to play on such a dry pitch, and you take a chance. You take a bit of a chance by, producing that, and it just didn't work in the favour of the home team. But that's the way it is. It was some good cricket played, not to take anything away from the players. They tried hard. Virat Kohli and KL Rahul. I'm pretty sure that's what Diggy was trying to get at.
Yeah.
Should they have a counter attack? I think before we lost him. And my answer would have been to that was they're batting to play 40, 45 overs each. So, to counter attack, I think might have been the wrong way to go. But they were very unlucky to get out. Particularly Virat Kohli on playing the ball onto his stumps, and the same with KL Rahul and his dismissal. So, I just think it was just a hard-fought game from a batting point of view, batting first. And 240 runs, I thought, still was competitive, but it became a lot easier around about that 15th over.
Even Travis Head, let's talk about the
Yeah,
boys
what a
who
game.
finally lifted that cup.
Yeah.
He got the century, but it was a slow one when you look at Marnus Labuschagne as well. One would say that overall, for batting, it was a really slow pitch there.
It was. I mean, and really, what their partnership was 190 something.
Yeah.
Nearly 200 runs.
Yeah.
So they just never opened the door. They shut the door on them. They kept going and kept accumulating. The odd boundary came along. In fact, I think for my records, I could be wrong, 24s compared to 13. And the sixes, India hit 3 sixes, and I think Australia hit 5. So there was a fairly sizable difference in the boundary count, and that was a reflection of it getting easier,
Travis Head in this particular match, 137 of 120 balls. He got 62 of 48 in the semi-finals and 2 for 21. He was the player of the match in the semi-finals as well. I'm assuming he's the player of the match in the finals as well. We had to rush into this broadcast, so I don't have an update on that. But I want you to speak a little bit about this gentleman here. He comes at the back of an injury. The Australian team management really supports him, banks on him, and he does not disappoint them. Could you perhaps speak a little bit about Travis Head, Dav? He's come into his own. He's had a couple of lackluster matches as well. But today, on the day when it really mattered, he showed up.
In the last 2 years, I think he's developed his game really nicely. He was in the IPL a couple of years ago, but it was let go because his inability to score runs. But during the last couple of years, playing for Australia, he has definitely improved to the point where when he was injured and it was touch and go whether he would be available to play in this World Cup, I think the dates were a little against him, but they were prepared to give him that extra time to come and play at some point during this series of games. And to also keep him back in Adelaide instead of getting maybe constant treatment, maybe not so much treatment because the plaster was on his wrist, but certainly from the fitness point of view, maybe doing some supervised training. But no, they kept him back there, flew him over as soon as the plaster cast came off. He had a couple of net sessions and then proceeds to get a beautiful 100 in Dharamshala against New Zealand. Then he went down a little bit and then again came back, got runs. 2 man of the matches, a semi-final and a final. So, obviously the selectors and the captain, coaches feel very strongly about his ability, and he really didn't disappoint, did he? And I'm very pleased for him because the odds were against him a little bit. When you're coming in cold from abroad into the team straight away, and then it was as though he never left it,
Right. We have spoken about the batters. We've of course also spoken about the likes of Adam Zampa, who seemed to be off and on impressive during the course of the tournament. He still is right on the top of the wicket takers chart. But I want to now talk about Captain Pat Cummins, who, other than Imran Khan and Kapil Dev, becomes the only fast bowling captain to lift that trophy.
Wow.
Could you just speak a little bit about
Yeah.
his leadership skills there today? Was there exemplary moments of that displayed today in the match?
Well, he was another one, I think, that I feel anyway, that grew into that position and grew into the tournament as it went along. I do vividly recall at the start of the tournament, both Diggy, yourself and me was discussing whether or not he, as a captain, he should be playing because his performances weren't as good. He was trying really hard, but he was not in the wickets column, and the team lost the first two games. So as a captain, you tend to divert your attention to him, what's going on, and he was under a little bit of difficulty with the criticism coming his way, but he actually stood up to it, and slowly, he got into this tournament along with his mates and all of the other boys on the team, and began to play cohesively, good unit. They were unifying each other, and performances came. Fielding lifted after that atrocious second match against South Africa. Everything was starting to slot into place. The jigsaw puzzle pieces were beginning to fit much better, and the picture became clearer. So slowly over time, he really did improve, and it peaked today. As a leader, to get those wickets and to bowl magnificently, he deserves all the credit. And one of very few fast bowlers who captains the team and lifting that cup.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so that gentleman has definitely more than secured his position as the skipper of that Australian team,
Going forward,
especially
yes.
after today. All right, thank you so much, Dav Watmore, for being with us through the course of this entire coverage, for getting us your insights and your valuable expert advice on this World Cup, which has been extremely interesting to watch. Unfortunately, Team India's winless drought continues since year 2013, and Australia lift that coveted World Cup trophy for the record 6th time. India did go in as favourites, but it was not to be. Well, that's it from me, Isha Hanspal. News and updates continue on the other side. Bye-bye.
WION, India's global voice.